Okay, foodie friends, so this is going to be our basically what we thought about the clean eating month that we just did.
Yeah.
Our great experiment. And as you can see, we have some talking points here.
Nice.
So we're going to try to keep it brief, but we also really want you guys to know the ins and outs and the truth of what we kind of feel like connects to the clean eating. That way you guys get a better understanding of what you're getting into if you decide to go this route. Okay, so we're going to start with our pros and cons list. Okay, so for our pros, this is, I think, probably the biggest pro. We feel better.
Yeah, I mean, the food, none of the food made us feel heavy after we ate it. It was
No.
light. There wasn't anything. I mean, and it still lasted. Like, I wasn't, well, this kind of gets into the next pro. Kind of goes into the next pro, too. Like,
we're less hungry.
Yeah. So, you don't feel heavy after eating, but you don't get hungry really fast like you do with some diets.
Right. So if
After
you're
you
like
eat.
eating a lot of carbs, like, I mean, let's face it, we've gone out to eat to a fast food, got the, burger, fries, and whatever. And then like what, a couple, maybe an hour and a half later, you're so hungry you could like, you start gnawing on your fingers.
Right. But if you also, on the other side of that, if you're eating it,
this did not,
No,
this didn't do that.
But I'm saying on the other side of that, even if you're trying to eat healthy and you go, let's say you go half and half vegetarian or something, a lot of times those meals won't last that long. Like
Yeah.
you'll get, like we've done that before.
We've done experiments of this is before the YouTube
Long
channel,
time
but
ago.
we've done a month of vegan, we've done a month of raw, and we did a month of vegetarian. And let me tell you something, I think I was never more hungry in my life on the raw diet.
Yeah.
I could have I got to the point where like if I saw a squirrel outside, I just wanted to hunt it down and eat
Skin
it.
it and
Yeah,
put it
I
on
mean
a steak.
it was like
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
how hungry you get.
Like bugs start to look sort of
Yeah.
tasty. Yeah.
But this particular diet plan
Right.
did not leave us
No.
famished.
Wasn't
We
left
could go
hungry.
for hours.
We felt good. There was no like heavy feeling after you eat.
Yeah.
And you could go for just as long without feeling hungry again. as
And
regular food.
our third pro, everything tasted good.
Yeah, we didn't have anything, no recipe at all out of the whole month wasn't an excellent tasting dish.
Yeah, I mean, I was extremely happy with anything. And I pulled some recipes out. Like, we have the actual diet plan from the May and June edition that we did. But, I got to the point where, I mean, if you're doing a whole month, you're needing more. So I actually pulled out some of my older issues. And I would highly recommend the back issues, which are available on their website. I think you can even get them digitally. I don't know, but they're on there. And they were all really good too.
Yeah.
There's some really good gems in these, that I would continue to eat even if we don't decide to go full force on this.
Right. I don't, like I said, I don't think there was one dish we had that I just didn't like.
Yeah, no, excellent. I
So-
would make several again.
Yeah.
I'd be
yeah.
fine with it. But now...
This kind of gets us into our cons.
Okay, yeah, try to keep those pros in mind because we're going to try to balance them out with some cons.
Okay.
So the biggest con for me personally, and probably you,
Yeah.
is the expense. This diet, oh my God, is so expensive.
It may
And-
be worse in our area, I think.
Now
maybe,
that's true.
Just because some of the ingredients are things that
I had to
you
go
don't-
out of town for.
you don't really find around here.
Yeah. And when I say out of town, I know there's a lot of people that, when a country person says, I went out of town, maybe someone that lives in a city is just like, oh, okay, so what? Like, you hopped across the
To
town.
somewhere.
No, I mean out of town. I mean like an hour and a half drive one way.
We
If
live
not
30
more.
We live 30 minutes to get in town.
Yeah, like,
So when you go out of town,
Yeah.
it's that 30 minutes plus something.
yeah, exactly.
So, yeah.
So some of these ingredients was like, I'm doing a 2-hour drive one way
Yeah.
to get an ingredient. I mean,
Right.
now on the flip side of that, it's like once you do go out of town, you bulk up. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
you
Like
can
on
get a lot
everything.
of it, but-
You make a list and then you buy everything you can that you need for a long time and then you bring it back. So you're not wasting a trip, but still.
And this is another problem we've had with other diets that use, a ton of fresh vegetables. If it's something that we have a hard time finding close by and we have to go out of town for it, those things are more perishable also.
Oh,
So
big time.
you're
You can't
looking
buy
at-
in bulk with that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, if you get 1 week's worth, by the end of that week, the stuff you got is starting to get a little bit not usable.
Which is why in some of these recipes, you'll notice that the recipes actually called for fresh. I used frozen. There's a reason for that. Because sometimes the recipe would only be like, maybe, 3 asparagus spears. Excuse me, I can't buy just 3 asparagus spears in this area. So I had to buy frozen in order to be able to keep the rest of the spears until I could use it for something else.
Right, which isn't a bad option, but you have to have freezer space for it.
Exactly.
You have, there's other factors that come into play. So
yeah.
It was definitely more expensive, and mostly just because of the types of things we needed,
right,
and the availability for those things to us specifically.
Now,
so it may not be the case,
right,
in every situation, every person out there that
to
it
be
was
able
for
to
us.
do that.
Yeah, it may not be as difficult.
Now you can save money on this diet by cutting out. If you're cutting out all your soda and you're cutting out your carbs, like don't go to Starbucks and get a muffin, and you're cutting out eating out and candy and extra cookies and potato chips and stuff like that.
Yeah.
You can trim your grocery bill. Now that's what we did. We didn't buy any of that stuff this month, just to try to offset the extra cost of the vegetables. So, I mean,
overall,
maybe you're kind of coming out even, but I still think that expense edges just a little bit.
And like I said, I think that may be more specific to us. And maybe not to everybody.
Yeah, I know. If you're in
on
New
the
York City and you have like a market that's available every day, like a farmer's market or vegetable market, I mean,
maybe not. Maybe not as bad.
You could probably get stuff way cheaper than we can.
Now, this gets into our other one, though. If you're in New York City or a small apartment.
Oh, that's true.
There's another issue you're going to have to deal with.
Okay, so... but let's get into time. Let's get into our next 2 cons, because that leads into.
Because it's kind of both of them, really.
So these recipes, some of them, I would say most of them.
There's a couple that weren't bad,
and that's the ones I tried to post because I was like,
yeah, we showed the best of them.
Yeah,
I think
they're time consuming.
Yeah,
I made one just last night. And I finally had to call him in and be like, for the love of God, please come in here and help me. Because I had too many pots on the fire, too many utensils everywhere, too many bags of stuff. You're trying to fry stuff, you're trying to bake stuff, you're trying to do that. And that was one recipe that only made 2 separate items.
Yeah, a main and a side.
Yeah, a main dish and a side dish. That's it. Like, there's some recipes in here, I don't think one person could do them.
I mean,
It'd be a pain. It would be a big pain.
If it was your very first time doing the recipe, I think it would be really difficult to do it by yourself.
Oh, big time.
You always end up getting into more than what you originally think.
Yeah, it looks easy. They're like, ooh, this is easy. Step 1, step 2, step 3. And then you're like, whoa, wait a minute. Yeah. You didn't say step 1 had 3 additional steps before you get to step 2. Like that,
it ends up, a lot of them end up being more complicated than you anticipate. Now, if you've already done it once and you kind of can anticipate some of the complications you might have, you might be able to plan around those a little better. But
there was a couple of recipes in which I had to have you come into the kitchen because I was like, I cannot watch all 3 of these pots at the same time.
Yeah, and there's a lot of the things too.
Plus, make the sauce.
And there's a lot of them I don't think you can simplify. Even after knowing what you've got, what's coming,
you can't.
There's not really a good way to simplify it unless you don't use the products that they tell you to use.
Right.
Like if,
And that kind of leads us back to, like, if you live in an area like, inside New York City or a larger major city. Now, I'm lucky because this house was built in 1955, and kitchens were built huge
to be used
in the 50s. Because that was kind of the main thoroughfare of the whole house, right? The heart of the home. And so I have, large amounts of kitchen space. I can do all kinds of stuff in here.
Space. We've got stuff.
But if you live in any other style of home or a tiny apartment, I know in New York City, those apartments can be little, teeny tiny. Mm-hmm. And in other, cities, how do you need so much equipment. Okay, how many dishes and pots and pans and utensils did I dirty last night for 2 dishes?
I think we actually dirtied a couple skillets twice.
Yeah, I had to use one of my skillets twice because I was like, okay, I'm running out of room here. Yeah. But that's one of the major problems I could see if you did not have the stereotypical 1950s giant kitchen.
If you don't have the space and you don't have the equipment, it would complicate all of it.
Yeah, which also goes back to your expense because, maybe you have to buy the equipment for it, like the immersion blenders and those processors and, stuff like that. So, wow. That, for me personally, that's kind of a big con.
Yeah, I agree.
Those are all big cons. Now let's see. Now we did have another thing. Like we were trying to figure out, is this doable for the majority of Americans? I think I would have to say no.
Not wholeheartedly.
Not exactly the way it's written. If you follow this, and they do have budget issues, by the way, so you can go maybe on their website and see. I can't remember which one was the budget issue, but they've got them. They put them out, But for the majority of the magazines and for the majority of Americans, if you try to follow this exactly the way the way it is, I do not think it's doable. If you've got, especially if you've got kids, if you've got kids in school, you're working, how are you going to do all this?
Finding the time it takes to do it. Now, that being said, I would say 1 meal a week or 2 meals a week, like on the weekends when you might have a little time.
Yeah.
That's doable. I think anybody to do a few of the recipes every now and then is doable. It's doable for anybody every now and then. Mm-hmm. But if you're going to try to live this way, and that's the only food that you eat and the only stuff that you get, I don't think that's particularly feasible.
I'm actually brought back to mind on something that we discovered when we went vegetarian, vegan, and raw.
Yeah.
What we found is you have to live that diet, and then that's it.
Right.
You live it, and that's all you do.
Most of your time
and you have no other life.
Most of your time is spent dealing with the food that
just the food prep, the planning, and it's just everything.
It takes. That becomes your hobby. You can't have other hobbies.
No,
you can't really do anything
and most Americans cannot do that.
I don't think most Americans should do that either.
Well,
that's not a healthy way to live.
But
either,
even if someone, let's say someone wanted to devote their entire lives to one specific diet, okay, then what are you neglecting? Family, hobby, well-rounded life? I don't know.
I do think there are ways that you can incorporate some of the concepts without being a big burden on your lifestyle.
Yes. Oh, and now here's another big thing, though. And this is kind of changing the subject a little bit, but one big thing we need to address. Did it kick our sugar habit?
I think it did for me.
Okay,
I don't know if it did as well for you.
No, it's okay. Okay, I did kind of. Okay, Snapple has kind of made a little bit of a reappearance in my life, but M&Ms have not.
True.
Okay, so this is what my one big huge pro with this diet would be. Is after the 2 weeks, they were right. I did not crave sugar.
I actually prefer, right now, I would prefer a piece of fruit over a piece of chocolate.
Yes.
Because the piece of, like, I hate the heavy feeling chocolate leaves.
Exactly.
Now that I'm so used to not having that weight,
yes.
I actually prefer this. Like, if I'm going to get something sweet, I would rather have a piece of fruit.
And here's a big thing, too. And this is a big pro. I've always had sensitive teeth.
Yeah.
My tooth sensitivity has gone.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, it's not there anymore. You know, I think cutting out a lot of the candy, and you know, we had cut out soda before, but this kind of like just drove it home to like just not, you know, have any at all.
Right.
That to me is it because I never thought that me personally would be someone that would be able to cut down the majority of the sugar that I was consuming.
Right.
Because I love chocolate. I love candy. Don't even care anymore.
But,
I don't really want it.
Like I said, I actually don't want the weight that comes with eating something.
When I say candy, I mean like when you go into the gas station and there's just like the rows and rows of candy bars and Reese's and all that kind of stuff. We have not bought one single piece.
No, and
for the entire month.
Honestly, after the first week, I didn't even want any.
I know, I didn't either. I was fine with an apple. Yeah. For that, I mean, if you have a real problem with sugar. And I mean, your teeth are getting sensitive, you're just like, oh, and by the way, on the flip side of that too, we actually, both of us did lose a few pounds.
Yeah, not as much as we expected to.
Right.
But
we didn't really need to, but
I think I'm still losing some. I mean, even though we haven't really been that strict on this diet the last week or so, I haven't put any weight back on.
No, we haven't. So I've been really happy with that, you know, just saying. But in terms of if you've got a really bad sugar habit, I would highly, highly recommend doing this.
Go strict for a couple weeks, and it'll make a difference.
Yeah, it'll make a big difference. Yeah. So for overall, I would probably give this diet plan at least a B. Also, you know, when you talk about the expense of something, you know, you also have to balance that out with the expense of the future.
Yeah.
So all that candy, are you eventually going to have to pay for a lot of teeth repair? Are you going to have to pay for diabetes medicine later? A lot of the diets or the recipes in here really actually do follow along the guidelines of the American Cancer Association on fruits and vegetables and that kind of thing to keep colon cancer away and that kind of thing. So, and I mean, I'm not sitting here saying this is a cure-all. Nothing's a cure-all because there's genetics, there's environmental factors, there's all kinds of stuff. However, if you want to increase your chances of not getting diabetes or colon cancer or heart disease, I would say that this is actually, from what I've been able to see, this has been a really good diet plan to help with that. So, you know, when you talk about, this is so much money.
Honestly, if you cancel out how much we were spending on junk food and you offset a lot of that stuff, I don't. It
might not have been as expensive as we kind of might have initially thought.
And also, another thing I might add to that is if you fill your pantry, let's say you know, instead of having wheat flour, you have almond flour.
Right.
Instead of having, you know, some of the stuff, you just switch to using this, you know, the stuff that this calls for. Mm-hmm. You know, that initial investment is going to be higher. And the almond flour is always going to be more expensive than regular flour. But maybe not so much more expensive that it's, you know, going to be really impactful on your everyday, you know, way of living.
Yeah, it might not be. I mean, it's just something you would have to keep in mind because, like, you know, we're on a budget, and I'm sure, and there's people that are on stricter budgets than we are, you know, or that have to be. I mean, especially, you know, if you're in college, I mean, you got stuff going on. You know, maybe you're already paying for medical bills and stuff like that. I mean, you're going to be prohibited. By a lot of these.
The expense is
and
a little
some
higher.
of these ingredients are kind of like, they're kind of what I would see as trendy ingredients. And trendy ingredients are always more expensive than, you know, your other ingredients.
But I think that kind of also leads us into this, is I think there are ways you can make it more affordable.
Yes.
And still get the benefits and
yeah.
gains
Definitely.
you get out of it.
And that's actually what and that's why I gave this a B grade.
Right.
Because I really do think you can take what you've learned from this,
Mm-hmm.
and you can retrofit it into a more doable style in terms of time and cost.
Yeah.
So you can, take, okay, so this is the amount of fruits and vegetables I should be having in a day. You can, get what's on sale,
Right.
there's ways of doing it that you don't have to just put in the big initial investment if that's not something you can do.
Right.
And going forward, that's exactly what we're going to do.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to be searching and probably maybe even for myself, just kind of seeing how I can change a few things here and there to make this more budget friendly. And that way we're not just putting so much of our budget just into food.
And not just budget, but reduce some of the complications of some of it.
Yes,
too.
like,
the extra like some of the extra steps or the extra time it takes just to do it.
I don't want to be, there's some dishes that are, worth cooking and slaving over for 2 hours, but is it one of these? I don't think so.
You don't want to spend 2 hours working on a meal that you're going to eat in 5 minutes.
Exactly. Yeah. Or you don't want to be spending 2 hours on a meal that only makes one dish, one item.
A lot of it can be helped with instead of, making your own potato chips from scratch.
Right.
Just get a really good bag of potato chips.
Yeah, I know.
It's like,
they're out there.
Is it really that much worse?
I know.
As far as
we're still frying it in oils.
Yeah, does it make that much difference at the end? It's just for one meal.
They tasted good.
Oh, yeah, those potato chips were good.
Okay, so that kind of leads us into what we're going to do in the future. And I think our biggest thing is we're going to be continuing the lessons from this diet plan.
Mm-hmm.
But we're probably not going to, basically, I'm probably going to leave out the more expensive options and looking for more budget friendly, and maybe even retrofitting some of my favorite recipes that, we already do, and just making them into a healthier option, which is completely doable.
Adding some fresh vegetables and stuff here and there.
And I'm going to keep going the no candy route.
Yeah.
So in terms of the channel, what we've kind of decided to do is we're going to go back to exploring our cookbooks and doing various different themes.
Mm-hmm.
And that way we're going to kind of keep, the channel about where it was before we started this experiment. However, once a month, we're going to add in a clean eating, budget-friendly meal. And it probably won't be exactly the same format like we did. It'd probably be, just me, and I'm just be cooking it and then showing it and then, kind of saying what I did.
Kind of a fun little thing of how we normally would eat.
Exactly.
Instead of, obviously we don't eat out of, every single cookbook and huge pies all the time.
I don't make this all the what I make on video is just what I make for YouTube. It's not normally what I do in my kitchen,
Yeah, but like a normal meal out maybe that has a lot of influence from clean eating.
Exactly.
Right.
And we think that would probably be the best. Also, in terms of if you're wanting to keep clean eating, maybe, be able to present you some more easier options, especially, no one wants, like we said, no one wants to slave in the kitchen over a really expensive dinner and then it just made one item.
Right. And, maybe give you guys some good ideas. And if you've got any good ideas about ways we can do that also, post them down below.
Heck yeah, we'd love to see it.
Yeah. So,
okay, I think that just about covered everything that we wanted to cover. If you guys have any questions or, want any
extra
other
tips.
points to us to clarify, any other points, you can ask that in the comments below and we'll answer to the best of our ability. And so, I think what we're going to say is go ahead and try it, but maybe pick some of the easier, more budget-friendly options in the magazine.
And it just know what you're getting into when you do it.
Exactly.
Sounds
Because
good.
we didn't.
Yeah, we did. And now that we do,
Yeah.
we might have already decided to do it a little different. But,
Yeah. Okay. So, yeah, overall, I still think I'm going to keep my subscription.
Yeah.
Obviously, I still really like it. I'm going to keep using them. I would recommend picking them up and just learning from the magazines. I think it's still an awesome thing to learn from in a way that you can learn a lot of really good ways to stay healthy and keep yourself fit.
Yeah.
So, okay, I think we're going to leave it at that.
Sounds good.
Yeah. All right. So that was our overall video. We will be back to our regular content. And thanks for watching this video. Hope you guys learned something. And like we said, if you got a question, just post it. We'll answer. And we'll see you next time. Thanks for watching. Bye. If you like this video, make sure to hit the like button and hit the subscribe button for future videos. In the meantime, here are 2 videos you may enjoy. Thanks for watching.